Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Blake Farmer, and this is Nashville on a very special broadcast. It's all about harm reduction. Harm reduction is a way of supporting people who use drugs, often without requiring or even suggesting that someone should stop using. Harm reduction can refer to, well, just about anything that reduces harm, from condoms and disease testing to, when you're talking about drugs, clean needles for injecting drugs. Nashville has a small number of nonprofit organizations that provide harm reduction services, and we'll hear from some of those folks on shows later this week. The thing is, in Tennessee, services such as syringe exchange, that's trading used needles for clean ones, are restricted to just a very few sites. This means people who use drugs and are in need of safer use supplies must find a way to regularly come to these organizations. And this legal requirement can leave some people who use drugs unable or unwilling to make that trip. And this can mean more danger in their use practices, such as reusing and sharing needles and using drugs with less information about what's actually in them. In an attempt to bridge this gap, some people head out on their own with no oversight and just go to the people, passing out drug use supplies, treating wounds, and building relationships. Often, these are people who know firsthand the dangers of IV drug use because they've been users themselves. This is Nashville's managing editor, Tasha A.F. Limley, has spent time the last few years with people doing this kind of work on the ground, often on street corners and in abandoned parking lots and campsites, and she's going to take us to those places today. I want to give you a quick heads up. This story talks explicitly about hard drug use, addiction, and their effects, and not always in an unfavorable way. Also, if you're listening on our podcast, the curse words have been left unbleeped. It's a powerful story that, no matter your feelings on drug use, will give you plenty to ponder. Tasha starts us with a guerrilla harm reductionist in action, Miriam Field.
What we're doing for a syringe bag or a safe injection kit is 20 syringes, a couple of clean cookers, and then a tourniquet. And then in every bag, I'm gonna put like 2 or 3 testing strips, fentanyl testing strips. And then that's a kit.
Miriam Field is the founder and executive director of Mainline Harm Reduction. Her work is self-funded and also supported a little bit by friends and some donations that come in because of her harm reduction videos online. For 3 years, Miriam's distributed drug use supplies across Middle Tennessee. Supplies not just including legal contraceptives, naloxone, and wound care, but paraphernalia such as crack and meth pipes and clean syringes for people who use injection drugs.
Do you guys want to go up to the Hooters or the little Arby's across from Hooters? Because then we could assemble kits and people would see us there, and then we'd start getting some participants.
This kind of guerrilla or underground harm reduction is controversial and often also illegal. But Miriam's not daunted. The work is just too important. From reversing overdoses to reducing the chance of spreading disease and infection.
If you don't have the supplies you need, you improvise. And that's why we want to make sure they don't have to improvise that much. They need to get what they can get. We like to have cotton filters. We don't have them today, so that means that people will use the filter in their cigarette, which also isn't great or sanitary.
And how do you use the filter?
Gosh, it's such a complicated thing because when it comes to sanitary gold standard practice, they would pull off a little bit of cotton from a cotton ball, roll it within their fingertips, and then drop it into the substance that's mixed with water. So then you're going to draw up through the syringe from the filter instead of just the random water. That way you're avoiding debris or any kind of like fillers that aren't water soluble, because it's IV use, which is very dangerous if you put a little bit of dirt, like a literal piece of tiny gravel or something, straight into your main line. It's kind of an issue.
And a cotton ball will take care of that.
Yeah, just a little bit of cotton.
Miriam is unusually beautiful and magnetic. She's tall and bright and simultaneously puts me at ease and makes me wish I were just a little bit cooler. We head over to a location in South Nashville near the interstate. It's known for its sizable, unhoused, and barely housed population. Miriam pulls over in an empty parking lot and pops the trunk of her car. Plastic tubs are filled with small brown paper sacks holding the safe use kits she's already put together. Syringes, tourniquets, and pipes. There's a gravity about her that seems to pull people in.
Hey y'all, it's Mainline. You want to meet us up there? We got supplies.
Slowly, folks start coming over to see what she has.
Hi, how are you? I don't know if I've met you before. My name's Miriam. I'm passing out harm reduction supplies.
Harm reduction? What is that?
It's for people who use drugs to do so safely.
Oh,
You don't know anybody? Come on. Please, let them know we're here. What do you need today? A little bit of everything?
yeah.
Okay. And if you see anybody, let them know. I'm going to give you a straight and a bubbler.
People who use drugs might strongly prefer one method over another, or even transition over time. Injecting can be the quickest and most intense delivery, and some argue the most economical. There's also the privacy of injecting versus smoking. So, folks come up to Miriam looking for everything from water to pipes and needles.
30 gauge, they get a little sticky if you know what to do.
Yeah, I need a couple of those.
Okay, the straights or the bubbles? You guys want both? The real question is I have thick glass and I have the Pyrex thin. Like these ones.
Yes.
Okay, you take one, you take
Miriam's
one.
also passing out glass pipes along with chore, which is a little bit of copper or steel wool. It's kind of like a tiny Brillo pad. She tells me most people use chore as a filter in a crack pipe. She says smoking itself can be a form of harm reduction. It's all about keeping people alive. And recent studies show smoking drugs is less likely to cause an overdose than injecting them. And it's less likely to spread disease.
And what's really cool is that the smoking kits, they are a step down from injection. If you only give people things to inject drugs with, that's how they'll have to use it. Smoking is less, the OD rates are lower, it's less risky, it's easier to measure, and it's just not as risky and harmful to your skin and to your body. And, inhaling your substance is just not as risky as injecting it.
Joey walks up and is looking for a thin pipe.
How can I help you, sir?
A thin pipe? Yeah.
Finally. Represent.
What's the difference in the thick and thin?
Yeah, you tell me.
That's Pyrex.
So it's not is it not glass?
You know how
It is glass.
Yeah, you know how you can cook with Pyrex in the oven. That holds heat long. It eventually makes too much heat. But this is just glass. That's Pyrex.
So the thick ones is Pyrex
And you can hold flame. It lasts longer.
but you wanted the thin.
Yeah, because I'm trying to quit.
Nice.
It gets away from you faster because it's thin.
I get that. I understand that.
You know, because I'm ready to get back into recovery. I got caught up a couple months ago and relapsed.
You're doing harm reduction. That's recovery. You in recovery.
Okay, on another level.
Yep.
Okay then, all right.
Small steps to doing
That's
better.
it.
It's that's recovery, man.
That's it.
Whoever does everything all at once and it lasts forever, that's rare.
Okay then.
When you make little steps towards your goal, that's a lot more sustainable, right?
All right,
That's
then.
what harm
One day at a
reduction
time.
is. Mm-hmm. One thin crack pipe at a time.
Okay then. Appreciate it. Thanks. All right.
Take care, man.
All right, have a good one.
Could I possibly get a bag of the 30 gauge?
Yeah. If we have
Miriam
them, I
tries
have
to stay
figure out.
equipped with a few sizes of needles. Preference depends on where a person chooses to inject.
Check the 5/16 needle.
I can check.
She says there are a few people who helped her gain some traction and trust along the way. One is a man called Six.
Six was the first contact I made, in this area, because it's hard to just roll up as a white girl wearing my black hat and my sunglasses. I'm looking like a cop, and he just made friends with me and just kind of vouched and was like, "Y'all, she's okay. You can talk to her." You came because I was looking hot. I was probably wearing booty shorts that day.
Always.
Yeah,
Always?
I was a hot cop. He was ready for it.
Say, well, I need to do this. Okay, I got you. That people come by. She called me. I come down and help her. He flew up and told me, he said, hey, Six, someone's down looking for you. She's right now. Blah, 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 blah. I said, I know it is already.
Like in the case of Six, Miriam's focus is on people who have less access to services and may be currently unhoused. And there's one huge thing that often stands in the way: stigma. Because of stigma, many times people understate their interest in what she's offering. Like when Joey said, I guess, after his request for a thin pipe.
Thin pipe, I guess.
There is a really common response of when I first meet someone, they'll say, oh no, I'm clean and sober. I've been clean and sober since last year and da-da-da. But if I tell them like, oh, well, I'm not, I party, they'll be like, okay, me too. Because in order to get what they need, they think they have to sway me, or they're looking for approval. And the common way to get approval is to be clean and sober. But then I can't do harm reduction. You have to know those pieces of information. What do you like? How do you use your drugs, you know?
To knock down this barrier, Miriam says introducing herself as someone who uses drugs has helped her gain trust. In fact, she proudly shows people her own injection marks from needle use, though she says she hasn't used injection drugs in many years.
People who inject drugs are very shy about saying that out loud, you know? But I'm able to show track marks and say, no. And my track marks are from doing tutorials. But I used to inject in my early 20s. But I don't inject drugs, I inject saline, but it still gives me some street cred to be like, no, look. It's okay.
A short woman comes up to the back of Miriam's car. She's thin and barefoot on the blistering pavement. It's one of those 99-degree days in Tennessee.
Do you have a bubble?
Yeah.
Here, stand on these.
It's like, well, it's like conditioning, like, what's it called? Condition training, I guess. I don't know.
I can't tell how old she is. Maybe in her 30s, maybe younger. Her hair is tired and dry, and there's scabs on her face. Miriam gives her a brown paper sack out of her trunk, just like the others. But this time, there's an issue when the woman reaches in. She says, not good, in a calm, maybe a bit irritated tone. She's looking down at the palm of her hand, and there's a small trickle of blood. She's been stuck by a used needle that was in the drug use supplies Miriam gave her, directly exposing her to harm rather than reducing it.
I just got poked by a used needle.
There was a used needle in that bag.
Yes.
Shit.
Yeah.
If there was one, it's from a really, really long time ago, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's all good. I mean, I've been poked by worse.
Can we check that bag?
Yeah.
But Miriam doesn't collect used syringes as part of her work. She doesn't even have one of those red biohazard containers with her. So she scrambles to collect herself and figure out what happened. In this case, she says she had actually let someone use in the backseat of her car a few weeks ago to help them stay safe. She collected the syringes from the backseat, put them in the same brown paper sacks she uses for fresh kits.
These are leftovers.
Oh, there? Yeah,
But not like used leftovers. They're just bags that were passed around while I was in my car because they were using in the car.
I go silent on tape for a few minutes. I'm reeling on the inside. My heart is racing. And I think in my 24 years spending time with folks on the street, I've never quite been this rattled. I had touched those bags. And if I had gotten stuck by a dirty needle, my life would have hit a full stop. I would have been in the emergency room within no time with my insurance card and my family. My job would have scrambled to see what could be done to keep me safe and get me what I needed. I would have worried about hepatitis and HIV and faced weeks of blood tests and possibly preventative medication. In this case, though, the woman just rolls with it. It's barely a disappointment.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine.
So good news is if it were anything, it's not fresh and it's from like 4 weeks ago.
I've been an IV user for a long time, so I'm not really worried about.
We should worry about it.
Well, I mean, I should,
but
but
it's not fresh. It's
I'm
not
like
transmit,
freaking out.
disease.
Yeah. I want some of them Sour Patch Kids, though.
So we're gonna tire.
She asks twice and does get the Sour Patch Kids. Honestly, I'm ready to get back to my car and process everything I've seen and felt. I've been learning about harm reduction for a few years, and even when legal, it's intense. I've seen a nurse express an infected wound in an abandoned Shoney's parking lot east of Memphis, while a nonprofit director lovingly throws his arm around a pissed-off young man wielding a bat. I've ridden along with a Nashville nonprofit as they, maybe unsuccessfully, struggle to toe the line of legality. I've watched a sex worker wolf down 2 chocolate chip waffles while he tells me he's the only person distributing naloxone to 17 rural Tennessee counties. And I've sat in another unsanctioned harm reductionist apartment in Alabama as she describes methods of using drugs my sheltered brain had not dreamed of. And I've walked through one of the most vulnerable doors in North Nashville, where people find their way to exchange their used syringes for new ones in hopes of just not getting any sicker. Sanctioned or unsanctioned, here in the South, we have nothing like the safe use sites on the East Coast. That's other than, as Miriam says, bars. There, you can get your drug of choice if it's alcohol. You can know what's in your product and get correct dosing by a trained bartender. Here, the closest a person who uses drugs may come to that is a friend's bedroom. And I guess in some cases, Miriam's back seat. That's for folks like Jen.
I wish I could come to the party and meet Jen.
Yeah, I wish I could. Where does she stay?
She's on the Woodbine area.
Yeah.
But Jen is maybe like 80 pounds. She has brain cancer. We're celebrating her birthday because it's probably her last one, but we've celebrated it every year since I started.
How old is she?
She's 39. She's unhoused, and she's kind of like the neighborhood mama. Every community has one, and she takes care of everyone. And I've always said, like, every person in chaotic use has 3 or 4 people who they will never fuck over, and it's my job to be one of those people. And I've let her use in the car. I've let her come home to my house. Never have I felt unsafe or that I've never had a doubt in my mind that she could be trusted 100%, and that's still true to this day. She'll take anything you give her, but she won't take something that you didn't give her. And that's the way a lot of people out here are.
Well, if we grab my car, maybe I can follow you there.
Oh, for sure. I wasn't trying to convince you.
No. I totally want to meet this woman now.
When it comes to harm reduction, it's all about keeping people alive. Even Miriam thinks Jen won't make it past this birthday. That's partly because of health issues, and partly because Jen's precisely the kind of person harm reduction is designed to save. We have to take a break, and when we come back, Miriam's throwing Jen a birthday party, so stay tuned. This is Nashville.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP, and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org. Funding for This Is Nashville comes from Burr and Foreman Law Firm, serving clients with transactional, litigation, and regulatory needs. Discovering how each client defines a win and working with them every step of the way to achieve it. Burr.com.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen. Happy Happy birthday to you.
It's Jen's 39th birthday in a local park south of Nashville. Miriam has set out a spread of sweets and savories, including Jen's favorite, macaroni and cheese.
And then you lick the candle, and then you smoke that candle.
Miriam's holding up a red plastic bowl of the cheesy pasta shells. It's doubling as a birthday cake this year, and Jen's blowing out a standard birthday candle stuck in it, sitting in a glass tube. It's a crack pipe.
I didn't think I'd make it to my birthday. You know, Miriam was the only person that threw me a birthday party last year. First time in years I'd have a birthday party, you know. And here she is again, throwing me another one. I love her so much. And she's been a big light in my life. Like I said, my family hadn't even been there like she has. I don't know what I'd do without her.
The pipe isn't the only paraphernalia decorating the area. There's colorful balloons tied to the picnic shelter with tourniquets. Those are the stretchy bands people use to find a vein. And then there's shining copper chore for some sparkle. Miriam's also 39. They're the same age, but I wouldn't have guessed.
When you look at a 39-year-old and Jen, it's hard for me to identify. Like, you know what I mean? She is very emaciated.
Emaciated feels like an understatement. Jen is possibly the thinnest person I've ever seen. My eyes trace the sharp curves of her shoulder joints, pits in her cheeks where teeth used to fill out some shape, the arc of her skull jutting out around her eye sockets. And at the same time, Jen is beautiful. She's smiling big. Her shaved head, whether it's from choice or necessity, it's sassy. Her eyes are big and clear. She's wearing shimmering green eyeshadow and a gentle pink lip gloss. She tells me she's ill.
Yeah, well, it started as I had an abscess in my neck from using dirty needles shooting up in my neck. And it went into my brain, and I had a very serious infection in my brain. I was getting needles off of the ground, you know, anywhere. I didn't care, you know, use them after anybody. Didn't matter, you know. As long as it was a needle and I was able to use it, it worked. I was going to use it. Stupid.
And then Miriam shows up in her life and things change. These infections can kill, and on the way can also lead to amputations and extended hospital stays. Clean needles can keep someone healthier. That's why Miriam comes in with harm reduction.
I was flying a sign, and she pulled up and she handed me a bag of clean needles. And I just started crying because of everything I went through, you know. Well, ever since then, I've been seeing her. She's been coming like every week, like clockwork. And then she started bringing me clean supplies, which I think inevitably saved my life because I was able to use a clean rig, and it stopped all my infections. She'd come every week. I ended up using 70 rigs a week, you know, 10 needles a day, but I was able to use a clean one every time I was able to hit. Went to the doctor and they told me I didn't even have hepatitis C. I was clean for all diseases, everything, not AIDS, not syphilis, not gonorrhea, not nothing, and I believe it's all because of them just being there to make sure I had a clean supplies every time I was able to hit. And, you know, so she's truly been a blessing in my life, truly. You know,
Jen says beyond drug use supplies, Miriam started taking care of her wounds. Even being in terrible shape, Jen's afraid to go to the ER, especially without insurance and with possible warrants. This is some of why unsanctioned harm reductionists often go straight to the people with what they need.
I had a real bad burn in my foot here, see?
Yeah, you've got like maybe about like a plum-sized white scar there that's, yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. It ate to the bone with staph infection, and she begged me to go to the hospital. So much, like, you could walk into my camp, and my camp was like from here to that tree over there, probably maybe about 160 feet, okay? You could smell my foot 160 feet away. And she, you know, was like, Jen, please go to the hospital. And I was like, I don't want to go to the hospital, I'm sick, you know. She's like, well, I'll make sure you're not sick before you go. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get back home, you know, how I'm going to get back here from Southern Hills. If I call an ambulance, what am I going to do, you know? I'll come get you. She made sure I wasn't sick before I went. Come and got me and made sure I wasn't sick when I got back home.
By sick, Jen means dope sick. She's so afraid of experiencing debilitating withdrawal, nothing else matters. It's what some folks call chasing well. It's not that she's necessarily looking to get high, just be able to function. And when she says Miriam made sure she wasn't sick, it likely means Miriam made sure Jen was able to use.
Like I said, went above and beyond for me, and I don't know what I would have done. Not to mention all the supply of Narcan. The Narcan supply has been a godsend because there's been so many times where there's been somebody that's not breathing, blue. Nobody knows what to do. But guess what? There's Narcan everywhere you look because Mary made sure we were supplied with it. She made sure that there was Narcan everywhere. She amply supplied us with it, and that's wonderful.
Narcan or naloxone has become a staple of harm reduction. It's a legal drug that can be administered to someone who is overdosing, and you can't get high from it. Some experts credit declining overdose deaths in Tennessee at least in part to access to naloxone. Jen says she's been paying Miriam's kindness forward a bit, too, to businesses around where she camps.
I'll go and I'll give them each a vial of Narcan and say, here, just in case you find somebody in your bathroom, just in case you find somebody in your parking lot, here in the bar, here. Because there's been times when at MAPCO they found people in the bathroom, blue, and they don't know what to do. Here's a Narcan, here's instructions, that way you know what to do and it's good, and it's all because Miriam's been able to supply us with it. She's been my only source of being able to get things like that. I'll tell you, there is no other program out there, not homeless outreach, not community service, any of them metro bullshit. None of them people come out here and checked on us like she has. None of them have gave a damn about us, but she has. If it wasn't for her, I would have been dead.
Jen's likely not the only person who credits Miriam with saving their life. And Miriam very much loves Jen back. These 39-year-old women may not on the surface look like they have much in common, but their bond is deep.
Sometimes people just grab you and you see yourself in them, that she's my age, she kind of has the same story as me, and I have survivor's guilt when I'm around her, but also she's pure and she loves you and I love her, and she's someone I connected with.
Miriam's drawn to this work because of the kind of connection she has with Jen. And 3 weeks after this birthday party, she's gone. She wouldn't live to see 40. And by she, I mean Miriam, the woman who had been the one saving lives. The Miriam who shared about her track marks, who I have to think now she didn't want me to see that she was actively using. Miriam Field, harm reductionist, died on Monday, September 16th, 2024. The autopsy report lists the cause of death as accidental overdose, fentanyl, and cocaine. We need to take one more break, and when we come back, we'll hear how Miriam's influence lives on after her death. This is Nashville.
It's knowing that this can't go on forever. Likely one of us will have to spend some days alone. Maybe we'll get 40 years together. One day I'll be gone. One day you'll be gone.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Tasha A.F. Lemley, and this is Nashville. This hour, we're talking about harm reduction, particularly an underground version some people feel really called to do. While some forms of harm reduction, like condoms, naloxone, and fentanyl test strips, are legal for anyone to hand out on the street, drug smoking supplies and syringes can be illegal here in Tennessee for regular people to distribute. We've been following Miriam Field, an unsanctioned harm reductionist focusing on homeless communities, supplying them with drug use supplies out of the trunk of her car, cleaning wounds, and training people who use drugs how to use more safely. Even so, Miriam died from an overdose in her home just 3 weeks after the birthday party of another 39-year-old who seemed to be the one who might not live much longer, and who credited Miriam with saving her life. But no one saved Miriam. The autopsy report says she was wearing pink shorts, a blue shirt, and a pendant necklace. Reading the report stings. It's entirely intimate and at the same time necessarily clinical. It walks through her body and organs one by one, and they're all pretty much healthy. Manner of death accidental, it says. Acute combined drug toxicity. And then it lists fentanyl and cocaine. I found out about Miriam's death via a devastated text from Dr. Christy Stringer. She's a professor of public health and close friend of Miriam's.
I'll tell you, my students, I don't care if they ever remember that marijuana was outlawed in 1936. What I care about is that their attitudes and their perceptions towards people who use drugs change. And that we can reduce stigma, because stigma kills. Stigma is why Miriam died. It wasn't a lack of knowledge. It wasn't a lack of access. Her whole house was full of Narcan. You know, she could have called me and said, you know, I'm about to use, will you stay on the phone with me? And I would have. But you know, nobody knew that she had started using. And she didn't share that even as widely as she was connected, as, you know, important as she thought harm reduction was. At the end of the day, there was still shame that kept her from reaching out for help.
Christy's driving around South Nashville. She's gotten the small remainder of the supplies Miriam had planned to distribute and doesn't want them to go to waste. So she's hitting a few of the places Miriam would regularly go. The beeping you're going to hear, it's Christy's seatbelt alert.
You can see when we pulled up back there, they'd put that fence up. People are relocated all of the time because of this kind of hostile homelessness, hostility, where they go in and sweep out camps and put fences up so you can't get into certain areas. So then we're just kind of back to square one, trying to find people again.
Your car's trying to do some harm reduction.
Yeah. You know, that is when I start talking to my students about harm reduction. We do start with helmets and seatbelts and you know, to get them to realize, heck, even sunscreen is harm reduction.
That's right.
A lot of people believe that harm reduction is enabling, and so you kind of got to meet them where they're at with their understanding and then move them.
Christy says Miriam was particularly pro-drug use, and in my experience, she even celebrated use. Like complimenting Joey on his choice of pipe and decorating Jen's party with colorful tourniquets and wanting us all to come out as drug users, whether it's alcohol or ibuprofen or caffeine. Christy's philosophy, though, it's a bit different.
You know, our goal is to get high, not die. If you're sober, great. If you're using, great too. And we love you no matter what.
Today isn't the steady stream of people coming to an open trunk like it was with Miriam. So Christy checks on a few through her open car window and moves on. A 38-year-old man called Bout That asks if there's a place he can call if he needs more supplies.
Of course.
And then he learns Miriam is gone.
As of right now, no, because our girl that really ran this thing, she passed away. She OD'd.
Who?
Miriam.
Is it the lady?
Real tall, pretty girl.
Short hair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's from right here.
Yeah.
What's for real? Damn.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. But we're gonna try and keep it going and get it back up and running, and when we get a new phone number, we'll let you know.
You used to have a hatchback car?
Yep.
Oh,
It just shows that sometimes all the knowledge and all the resources in the world still can't save you. I'm sorry.
man, I love that lady.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy because I never know her name.
Yeah, Miriam Field.
God damn. Yeah, she was beautiful as hell. Beautiful as hell. I wouldn't think she was doing dope, I swear to God. You feel me? I'll be damn. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, she used to change people's wounds and shit, you feel me?
He sounds amazed that Miriam was someone who used drugs. His face tenses, and he physically reacts as the news sinks in. He remembers how hands-on Miriam was with wound care, and how she always took the time to make sure each person got something they needed.
But she made sure everybody got at least one.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about she was the truth.
Yeah.
She was truth, man. I'm talking about, man.
We're trying not to let her work die.
Nah, for real, you feel me? Because I'm talking about, like, we've been needing y'all.
Christy gives him a quick ride to a gas station and says goodbye. We visit a few more people and make a few passes, and we look, but we don't find Jen, the 39-year-old Miriam believed she was throwing a final birthday party for. People tell us she's currently locked up or maybe found a car to live in. Word gets around fast on the street. Still, we're not clear if she even knows Miriam is gone. About 8 months after her death, Miriam's potluck memorial was in a park on what would have been her 40th birthday. I came casually and expected to see a few of the folks I'd met with her. Looking around, though, I felt underdressed. Folks in their 30s and 40s looked like academics, professionals, and maybe artists. Miriam's 5 siblings and 2 sons were there. I didn't see anyone who struck me as currently homeless, and I realized I'd made assumptions about who would be at her funeral based on who I thought she was. And this is what I learned about Miriam Field at her memorial. There were many distinct sides to her, eras even, and it was fair to question if any of us knew all of her. I know I didn't. I only knew her for a short time and only in the harm reduction scene. One thing many people talked about, though, was her bold spirit, always going where she felt she had to go, being called on to question power and rules and challenge each of us to be as free as possible. The simple program handed out that night has a page with a single sentence. We'll remember her as a formidable woman. Whether or not her organization, Mainline Harm Reduction, gets another life, even after her death, Miriam's influence extends beyond Middle Tennessee. Her TikToks have millions of views, and in the videos, she schools people on stigma, calls out systems that marginalize, and she showcases her on-the-ground work. We'll let her have the last word here.
If you really care about these people, humanize them. They're not sad, helpless animals that need to be rescued. They are complex human beings living under systemic oppression. Educate the public about the nuances of their situations. Protect them. Protect them. Keep them safe from the stigma. Don't contribute to it.
I will not be in my body. I can be distant and blissful. I've got this narcotic. I am the heroine of my made-up story. I'll bury, I will not inherit the sins of my father.
That song that you're hearing right there is called Bury This Heirloom. It's actually a song by Miriam's sister, Ziona Riley. I'm Blake Farmer. You're listening to This Is Nashville. And our managing editor, Tasha A.F. Limley, joins me here in the studio to just kind of debrief for a moment and take a beat because it's a very heavy story. Now, Tasha, I know you talked to Miriam's family before this broadcast because obviously when you started this reporting, we had no idea where this story would end.
Yeah.
So it's been a year since she died, almost to the day. How did her family feel about her story being told in this way?
Yeah, I was actually surprised when I spoke to her sister, the gratitude that was coming out of just glad someone was paying attention, glad someone cared. She asked, is her voice going to be in it? And you could hear a little bit of a lift.
Wow.
And I felt the need to kind of go, oh gosh, I was so grateful that there was some joy that this story was going to come out, but also I felt some gravity over, now wait a minute, this kind of shows the joy and the complexities and the flaws in what Miriam was doing.
I remember talking to you. It was like my first week when I came on as host of the show. We talked through all this reporting you'd been doing over the last 3 or 4 years about harm reduction and using it as this way to curb death and disease among people addicted to opioids. And I remember you telling me about Miriam, and my eyes just lit up. I think, holy cow, this is a story that we've got to get out into the world. But you had also been following other people who are kind of doing the same sort of work underground on harm reduction. What else are people doing in Tennessee to support folks kind of in the throes of addiction like Miriam was?
Yeah, I think one of the things that didn't fit into this story that surprised me is some harm reductionists actually will get samples of drugs to send off. There's a university on the East Coast that will apparently test that and send back information about what's actually in someone's stash. So
and why is that something that is frowned upon or maybe even illegal in some states?
Well, gosh, I would just imagine, handling any kind of illegal substance that you don't even know what's in it,
and I guess it could be almost a service. I mean, like it's almost helping let's say if it's a drug dealer, know what they've got.
Yeah, know if they've got a really strong product or not.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's one of the arguments. That's also has been one of the arguments against fentanyl test strips, that of course someone might be trying to avoid fentanyl, and that's the idea, is that, hey, whether this even Xanax you bought on the street that many people can't tell, even officials can't tell the difference in a pressed pill gotten on the street and one from the pharmacy, that someone using that would be able to tell with a fentanyl test strip, hey, is there fentanyl in this? Is this dangerous? But the argument against fentanyl test strips is, hey, but people are seeking fentanyl, so that would verify that actually what they're trying to find is in there.
In looking so closely and deeply as you have at harm reduction, as we've been talking about it, has it changed your understanding of what harm reduction is and what might be appropriate to use widely?
Yeah, it has. I think I went into this. I think I tend to be a pretty sheltered and naive person, and so I love discovering these new things and these new people in these worlds and in this world. And I think I went into this about 4 years ago feeling like, oh gosh, they're doing amazing work and how cool and saving lives. And I think, as we sit here today, I feel sad and I feel conflicted and I feel I understand the work a lot more, and I'm conflicted by the hazards around it and the exposure that it demands. Outside of a relationship, I feel very conflicted about syringe exchange, particularly. I feel like the beauty of syringe exchange, exchanging someone's used needles for clean ones, the beauty of that is the relationship that can be built between someone and a harm reductionist or a service provider, some of the people we're going to meet tomorrow. That can become a deeper relationship than just a transactional relationship. And I think in some harm reductionist worlds, there's a scattershot approach. You may never see someone again. And I feel pretty conflicted about that strategy.
Mm-hmm. You're saying that we'll hear people later this week talk about things like medication-assisted treatment, where you're using a drug like buprenorphine to help you stay off of harder drugs. That are purchased on the street, and there are folks who would argue that it should be almost just distributed, no questions asked, because it's better than the alternative. But are you saying that the problem with that is that it never helps someone maybe get themselves to a better place? That it does kind of keep them in the place where they are, which is probably not a place any of us want them to be.
Well, I think, maybe advocating on Miriam's side a little bit, she would push back. I think I knew her very briefly, but I knew her well enough to think she would push back there, that that relationship is not trying to get someone to change their use.
Yeah.
It's just trying to make their use safer and keep someone alive. But I will say, in Tasha Gut, in what I've seen and experienced, one of the most beautiful things I have seen is a sanctioned harm reduction group in Memphis called A Better Way, BETOR. And we will link to that feature I did a number of years ago in the web post for today's episode. And watching peer support, those are people who are formerly people who use drugs, engage with people coming up to exchange their needles. There was an intimacy, there was a familiarity, there was a checking on the same wound week after week after week. There was a holistic approach to the relationship around that syringe exchange that I think I did not have the opportunity to fully see with Miriam, other than, of course, Jen. Oh my gosh, that was a solid relationship of care.
That she threw a birthday party for.
That she threw a birthday party for, yeah.
Yeah. Well, to folks who've been listening and stuck with us for this hour, even though it was hard to listen to for them, perhaps, who are just thinking, this just sounds like it's enabling folks to use drugs. If this person was my sister, I would not want someone to help them use drugs in this way. What do you have to say to them?
Well, I have to say to someone whose sister is, they don't want their sister using drugs in this way. Well, I don't want my brother using drugs in this way. And cyclically, he does. He's not an injection user, but
you have personal experience.
I have personal experience in my family, and fear that any day there'll be that call that Miriam's family received. That would be my argument for. I mean, Am I allowed to advocate for more sanctioned harm reduction? Those folks we're going to hear from tomorrow, that clean, healthy environments with regular relationships, even the ability to go to the people that we don't really have in Tennessee right now, I think could be beautiful, could be healing. And when someone is ready to transition out of drug use, there's someone there they know who to go to with no stigma, no judgment, that person in front of them who has legally been helping them.
Yeah, and we'll get to more of that this week in the shows, but your point there is that when you're allowed to, let's say, do needle exchange, it's just in a couple of locations that you've been authorized. And of course, the neighbors don't want needle exchange going on next door, so there's only a few places these are allowed. I'm hearing you say that in your reporting, you can see why that doesn't work great, because it means these people have to go find those folks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that is an onus that I think a lot of people just can't or won't do.
All right. So tomorrow we've got a show that's all about what is allowed in terms of sanctioned harm reduction in Tennessee. Great show on that. We're doing medication-assisted treatment on Wednesday. So we'll have folks, pharmacists, physicians, peer support, who are going to be on to talk about that. Thursday's a call-in. What do you want to hear from our listeners?
I think I'd love to hear if there was anything this week that resonated with someone, that made them feel heard, or something from their very personal experience that they disagree with. If they have a family member or they themselves are a person who uses drugs.
Yeah.
Would love to hear their thoughts, would love to hear what they want our listeners to hear, because we can't get to everything. So what did we not get in? What did we miss? If we missed the mark, I'd love to hear those things.
And we'll have former Nashville Mayor Megan Barry helping field calls, along with other folks who've been through it, as we know she has with losing her son to an overdose. Well, Tasha, thank you so much for this reporting.
Thank you, Blake.
I caught you knocking on my cellar door. I love you, baby, can I have some more? Oh, damn, it's strong.
Thanks for tuning in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's episode was produced and directed by Tasha A.F. Limley. Our board operators, Liv Lombardi. Internal beats courtesy of Moby Gratis. And thank you again to Miriam's sister, Ziona Riley, for letting us use her song, Bury This Heirloom. Legal review by Paul McAdoo. Special thanks to Tony Gonzalez, Morgan Leah, Peter Hostler, Daniel Garrett, and Mike French. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get good podcasts. The conversation doesn't end here. You can comment and tell us what you want to hear on the show by leaving us a message at 615-751-2500. You can also find us on Blue Sky, Instagram, and X at This Is Nashville. This is Nashville. I'm Blake Farmer. Go in peace.